Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome back to Watchcastage. Today, I am not black-gloved because this is not a very reflective watch, but today we are going to be looking at and reviewing an extremely affordable Casio three-hander watch. Let me see if I can get this model number correct. The EAW-MQ-24-7B2, and this costs around $15 to $20. Let's start with the build quality of this thing, and it does not feel good. It does not feel high quality, but you shouldn't be expecting it to because, as I mentioned, it's $16 to $20. The weight is 29 grams. The case diameter is about 33.3 millimeters if you exclude the crown. But if you include the crown in there, you're looking at around 36 millimeters. The thickness on this thing is a whopping 8 millimeters, super thin. The lug to lug is 38.7 millimeters, and the lug width on this watch is 16 millimeters. The water resistance for this thing doesn't really tell you anything. It just says water resistance. If we look at Casio's graph or data on this, it's similar to 3 bar, so it's splash proof. You can wash your hands, and if you get caught in the rain, it's okay, but don't go swimming with it. It does have a press-on case back. You shouldn't be expecting it. There is no screw-down crown. The crystal on this thing is completely flat, and it is going to be plastic. No big surprise there. The case is going to be all made out of resin. It's a plastic, cheap-feeling material. The strap also, a very cheap-feeling plastic. It does not feel good. It feels as though if this were to get caught in the sun for a day, the strap would dry out and break. It feels like very cheap plastic. I don't think anybody really cares at this price, but the crown is unsigned if that matters to you. And a little bit more information about the strap. You do have a plastic or rubber keeper that is just floating, so that may cause some issues for you. And the buckle is also plastic, and both the buckle and the keeper are signed with Casio's logo. And as far as the manufacturing location at this price, it shouldn't really be much of a surprise that it's cased in China. I imagine the entire case and everything else is made in China, but it does state that the movement is made in Japan. Then let's talk about the finishing on this, if you can even call it that. The entire case is just a matte plastic finish. But if you do look at some parts of the watch, you can tell that the plastic starts to get a little bit shiny after a little bit of wear, where your fingers might rub and your oils get on there. So it's matte, but also shiny, but not polished, unless you consider rubbing your finger polishing. The case back of the watch has everything that's standard on a Casio. It has the module number, the model of the watch. It tells you what the material of the case back is, tells you the water resistance, and the manufacturing location for the movement and the case. Then as far as the dial, this has to be one of the most basic dials available. It is a plain white dial with all black printing on it. Along the exterior of the watch, you will find a minute track, and you do have more bold circles at every 5 minutes. Inside of that, you have 12-hour numerals, and the only real cool thing about this I learned while researching for this, the font for the numerals is the exact same font used in some of the Close Encounters of the Third Kind posters. And I will link that article from Hodinkee in the description if you want to check it out. But I have to say, that made wearing this watch a lot more enjoyable, having that tie to Close Encounters from the Third Kind or Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Really cool. Then right below the 12 o'clock, you will see that it says Casio Quartz. Above the 6 o'clock, it says Water Resist. And then below the 6 o'clock, it says 702A2-H44, and then Japan Movement FM. There you go. Then when we look at the hands, you have nothing special here at all. It is a set of baton hands, and they appear to be an unfinished metal. When looking at these hands from afar, they do almost appear to be black, but upon closer inspection under the macro lens, you can tell that they are unfinished metal, and the second hand almost looks as though it's of a different metal, or at least a different quality of metal, which is just a little bit weird. Then as far as the movement on this thing, it uses the Casio Module 1330. Obviously, that is a 3-hand movement, hour, minutes, and seconds. It does have hacking, so you can set this pretty precisely. The battery life that I found on the Amazon listing is 2 years. I cannot vouch for that. I have not had this for 2 years, but that's what they're quoting. They also quote an accuracy of plus or minus 20 seconds a month. When I was wearing this for a couple of weeks, I was getting plus 2 seconds a week. So a lot better than that. And as far as the seconds hand hitting the markers, it is fairly tolerable. It's not the worst that I have ever seen, but it does still miss quite a few. I have seen much more expensive watches miss the markers way worse than this. So as far as, I think it's called registering, it does seem to do a pretty good job, especially considering that this watch only costs 15 to 20 bucks. Now, this may be me being nitpicky, but I noticed this and I have to point it out. And now it's going to make me hyper aware of this on every single watch. This shouldn't be an issue, but the hands don't line up. I have aligned the time to 12 o'clock exactly, trying to set it with the minute hand exactly at 12 o'clock. And you can see the hour hand is a little bit off center. And I noticed it when I was even setting the watch to 3 o'clock. It seemed as though the hands were a bit off. So maybe that's something just because it's a $15 watch. They don't care as much. Maybe they don't have QA as stringent as other watches, but I have to point that out and let you know that my watch in particular, the hands don't align. And here is the amazing Lume and the amazing backlight. That's right. There's nothing. You can't see anything. You're blind in the dark. I hope you don't need to read the time at nighttime or something. I don't know. There's nothing. You can't see anything. And just to show, yeah, there is recording. There's the light. Nothing. There you go. And here is how the watch looks on my 18-ish centimeter wrist. It is undoubtedly small. I don't know the proper word there, but I found myself really enjoying it. It's a fun watch to wear even though it is small. You forget how small it is after a day or two. The first day, if you go from something like a 39 millimeter, it's going to feel tiny. But once you become acclimated to it, I found the same thing with the Rolex Explorer. It was a lot more comfortable to wear. You forget that it's there and just really enjoyable. Let me go ahead and rotate it around. You can see just tiny, really, really thin. Sits right there well on the wrist. Right there well on the wrist. And then I'll rotate it around. You got your signed buckle. Really high-class stuff there. There you go. That's the watch on my 18 centimeter wrist. If you like smaller watches, 15 bucks, you can't go wrong. And now let's get to the more subjective part of this video, and we'll start with the pros. I really enjoy small watches, so that was a big pro for me. The thinness of this watch, absolutely bonkers, 8 millimeters. I didn't realize I loved 8 millimeter thick watches, but apparently I do. And then the biggest selling point for it is it's affordable. It's a $15 watch, and if you're looking for a budget 3-hander with a bit of a sci-fi tie to it, I think it's pretty rad. I also really enjoyed, this wasn't a pro until I started researching for it. I like wearing the watches before I do much research into them, but once I looked into it, seeing that it uses the same font as Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I was really thrilled about that. Just gave it a bit of extra depth, a bit of extra interest for me because I'm a sci-fi guy kind of. And then as far as the cons of this watch, the materials, all of them feel very cheap, pretty terrible, and I do not trust them in terms of durability. I imagine that this would fall apart after maybe a year of use. It does not feel like this is a buy it for life kind of deal. I don't think this is going to be picked up by people looking for a proper beater where you can beat the crap out of it and use it for years to come. I don't see that happening. And the other con is that this watch has no visibility at night. There's no lume on the hands. There's no lume on the dial. There's no backlight. I understand why there's not, because They had to keep the cost down, and it's $15. You don't have much budget to throw a bunch of looms or lights in there, but having some visibility would be nice to have on this watch. As far as the water resistance, it's listed the same as the Casio F91W, I believe. I think both of them are listed as water resist, or maybe the Casio is listed at 3 bar. But if it has the same kind of water resistance as the F91W, I'm really not concerned with it. In conclusion, I was not expecting to enjoy wearing this watch, but after a couple of days, I really took a liking to it, especially as a secondary watch on my non-dominant hand, or non-dominant wrist, I should say. I really enjoyed wearing it. It's small, it's light, it's affordable, and maybe I'm crazy. I think this thing looks great. I really like the aesthetics of this thing. It's not minimalist, it's not Bauhaus, it's Casio. It's got that Casio look to it, and I dig it. I dig it big time. Now, it would be hard to say whether I would go I can't even remember the model number, the MQ-24-7B2 or the F91W. I'd probably lean towards the F91W just solely based on the additional functionality. But if you're looking for a three-hander and you want that analog watch, you want maybe a first watch for somebody, or you just want, maybe you're a huge nerd and you absolutely love Close Encounters of the Third Kind, then this would be an interesting option for you. That's about it. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give me a thumbs down. Let me know what you didn't like about the video or what you might like in future reviews. What would help you when you are making your purchasing decision. Any information that I'm leaving out that is essential to you, tell me, and you're probably wondering why they are on different times, because I was playing around with this, and this isn't on time anymore. This is on time. That's why, because I know somebody's going to be upset about that. I know somebody's going to be upset about it because I was just upset about it. Looking down and seeing they were way off, I got kind of annoyed by that. But there you go. That is it. The Casio EAW-MQ-24-7B2. If you enjoyed it, thumbs up. Hated it, thumbs down. I think I already said that. Subscribe for more, and I will see you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Bye.